Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. We're on episode 159, and I always love starting the podcast by saying thank you. Feel so very blessed with everyone that listens to this podcast, all the messages we receive. I started this podcast as a passion project nearly 4 years ago, I think, something like that. And really, the objective was to simplify spirituality and guide people on their spiritual journey. And I love the fact that it's doing that. My name is Nimesh. Most people call me Nims. I am a spiritual coach, mentor, as well as an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, and a podcast host and a podcast creator. And I just love the space and love what I get to do. I get to guide people to shine their light. And really, this time is so many energetic shifts, and so many of us have been pushed to shine the light. And I love what I get to do. And this podcast wouldn't be where it is. My journey wouldn't be where it was without my beautiful co-host. So I'd love to introduce Stacey Brown. Stace is a healer, published author, and a really good friend. So Stace, over to you.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to be here. I love doing this podcast. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from around the world. I'm also a spiritual mentor and coach, an Akashic record reader, and co-host of this podcast. I recently published my first book, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender. It's available on Amazon and Audible, and I am really looking forward to getting into this topic today.
Yeah, looking forward to it too. So, as I've said many times, we don't script this podcast. We don't really kind of put any bullet points down, etc. Because we want to channel whatever comes through. But the topics we normally pick in advance. For today's topic, we really wanted to pick something that was kind of appropriate for what's happening right now in terms of the energetic shifts. So today we're going to be talking about riding the wave and thriving amidst intense energies. And the reason we picked this is it really does feel like right now it's a period of riding the wave. There's been so many energetic shifts. So many of our clients are feeling it, where we've just been going through a lot. And it feels like collectively everybody's going through a lot. But also collectively, everybody feels like nobody else understands what they're going through. And the changes are deep. And in many ways, it's also a lonely time. But it really does feel like we're riding a wave. We don't have a lot of control of what the future holds. We have a control of this moment. And really, it's about how can we thrive with this intense energy? What do we need to do? And that's really where we're going to go deep into this episode is, what do we need to do? How can we thrive during this, when there's so much change, there's so many planetary activities, there's so many kind of rebirths and energetic cycles closing, kind of so much ancestral healing, inner child healing. But it really does feel like a time, if we could ride the wave and let go, we would thrive. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So Stace, when I say to you riding the wave and thriving with this intense energy, what does that mean to you?
It just feels like such a loaded question. This is a time for me personally that is extremely intense. And
wait, ever since I've known you, every period has been. I don't remember a period that hasn't been intense.
Yeah, the last couple of years have been really intense, and I feel like I'm still in it. And I am not sure where it's taking me. And I'm not sure how to juggle it or how to handle it all. I feel like a lot of times I'm flying by the seat of my pants, and sometimes I don't want to be. I want to plan. I want to have it laid out. I want to understand that the energy is intense, but this is what I'm supposed to do next. Like, where's the crystal ball to lay out what I'm supposed to do next, Nims?
And that's really interesting, right? Because, we both are mentors, coaches, we read Akashic records. So we guide other people on their journey. But the reality is, the period we're in right now, we're not meant to know what's coming next. And that's really hard. I'm sure lots of our listeners can relate to the fact of last few months, last few years have been intense. A lot of us can feel change coming and change happening, but they really want to know what's next. And on the flip side, they don't know what's next. And this is the thing. It feels like we're all going through this mass change where we're not supposed to know what's next. And it really is. I mean, Stacey, we talk about trustful a lot, right? It really is a period of just trusting. And it's really hard. I get it. It's just, I've felt something around me and something coming. And we've talked about it for months and I can feel it. And there's times I get frustrated, like, just tell me what it is or just get on with it. I'm just tired. But I tell you what I'm trying to do, and that is, I know I'm here to serve, and I know I'm going to be put in places and where I need to serve, and I'm just trying as hard as I can to let go of whatever that looks like. And really, if I could summarize the advice from this episode, it would be just that: is have a strong self-care routine. So don't let go of the outcome. Obviously, still do what you need to do, but also, don't wait for some flashing flash in the sky and all of some big epiphany that comes through saying, this is your purpose, this is what you're here to do, because it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes spiritual awakenings, sure, get accelerated and we get some breakthroughs. But our destiny, our purpose isn't just one thing, and it evolves and changes. And for me, I've just left it to my purpose and my destiny is to serve. And my purpose is anyone I connect with is to live even better than I found them. And that for me is enough for now, because it allows me to do the podcast. It allows me to do public speaking. It allows me to, to mentor, coach, and guide other people. But it's hard. It really is hard letting go and just letting go and trusting whatever's coming next. It actually requires a lot of dedication. What I mean by dedication is the self-care routine, doing the regular meditation, the regular journaling, the regular time in nature, having honest conversation with yourself in the mirror or your soul or God or whatever, how you want to do it. All of these things are critical to you then trusting what's happening inside. And Stacey, I was telling you, I think yesterday, I can't remember the exact date, but it's been 4 years since we've met. No, 3 years since we've met. Honestly, ever since we've met, it feels like it has been like a roller coaster, right? It's been constant. It's been like a roller coaster for me, but the amount of change that you've gone through, it does feel like a constant trustful. And I'm curious, this particular trustful feels different than the previous ones. Why is that?
You have such a way of asking me the questions that just like, oh,
It comes from somewhere. You know what I'm like.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to cry on this episode because I do that. But I have been faced with so much, right? Like I went through a divorce in the time that we've known each other. I've moved not once, but twice since we've known each other. And I have been trying to create a life for myself and a foundation again from nothing. I mean, I've had to rebuild from the ground up. And I'm faced with another hefty decision right now and trying to make the decision that is aligned with my greatest good versus what's easy or what other people think I should do or what society would say I should do. And I'm trying to dial in on what's right for me. And this season feels more intense for me than any before. And I find myself, you know what? It just hit me. I think that the reason why it is so intense compared to the other couple years that we've known each other is because in a lot of those circumstances, I was reacting to what was happening. So like I was responding to the actions of another person or
Yeah.
the
Or
circumstances
you were
that I
backed into a corner, right? Yeah.
yeah,
You were backed into a corner. You had to make a quick decision, and it just felt like you didn't have many choices, and the decision was easy.
yes.
Easier. Let's not say easy.
Yes. And this doesn't feel the same at all. This feels like this really deep personal journey, and it feels like it's all up to me. It's not in response to somebody else.
Yeah. And it's a
And
choice.
it's a choice. Yeah, it's a choice.
And
And
that's not to say your other decisions weren't a choice, but this is, and I love the way you describe it. And this is the conclusion I was going to get you to is this is ultimately your choice, right? And,
mhm,
you know, I'm just curious of how our listeners would feel about that in terms of their situation.
mhm.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I'm responding to what's happening around me. I feel like I'm making a major life decision, and there's so many things going through my brain, Nims. Like, I'm 47, almost 48 years old. I've started over again. What does that look like? Who am I meant to serve? How am I meant to serve? Where am I meant to be? Um, it's a lot. And I feel so alone. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but just the feeling of like, has anybody ever been in this situation before? And what did they
It's
do?
so interesting. It's so interesting. I just recorded a reel. I haven't posted it yet, which basically says that the spiritual journey is lonely.
Hmm.
It really is. And I want to comment on a few things just for our listeners. Firstly, Stacey, this applies to you and all to our listeners, is we have to take step back and just be proud of how much we've grown in the past X number of years, X number of months. Because it's so easy to get lost in the current situation and feel the energetic shifts and everything else and get lost in that without realizing that, hold on, we rode that roller coaster. We've closed so many ancestral cycles, we've done so much inner child healing, we've released so much. And it's important you take stock of how far you've come and to realize that you did it. And secondly, the phase that we're in right now, we are being pushed differently. And again, I want to recognize that. And I'm hoping that our listeners can relate in terms of this trustful does feel different. This trustful does feel in some ways deeper, bigger, and like we have to choose. So many healers talk about we shifting from third dimension to the fifth dimension and all the rest of it. I do feel like the whole planet is going through some sort of energetic shift, but I do also feel like it's a choice. You either upgrade or you don't. You either live that, that fifth dimension life, whatever it looks like, or you don't. And you know what? Whatever you choose is perfect. But it's like, and I just realized we need to talk about the current energies. And, when this episode is goes live, we're going to be in Mercury retrograde. So many other planets in retrograde, and the planets that are shifting are all around our soul journey. They're all around our destiny, and that's why a lot of this stuff is coming up. And you add Mercury retrograde in there, and everyone worries about Mercury retrograde, and yes, it messes with communication, messes with electronics. But again, all these retrogrades bring up stuff that are ready to be healed. So again, the message for our listeners is the things that are coming up because you've done the work, you've done the preparation to get ready for this upgrade that's coming. And I get that isn't always super helpful. And the other thing that Stacey mentioned is true too. This spiritual journey can feel very lonely because we're a soul having a human experience, which means that nobody is going through the same things that we are. Nobody can truly relate. People can empathize, and you can find that safe space. You know, we as mentors, we provide that guidance and that we hold space for people as they truly understand who they are, and we love doing that. But ultimately, we are a soul having a human experience, and the weirdest things are when we're going through the biggest changes. That's when we feel like we're not being supported, even spiritually and humanly. And ironically, spiritually, it's probably the time we're receiving more messages and getting more support than ever before. But because of the emotion involved in the changes that we're going through, we get into a place where we can't hear those messages. We can't feel that support. We can't feel their love. And, you know, I always love the phrase, you know, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And our guides, the universe, are not here. They can't stop our pain because we're not gonna grow. We're not gonna complete whatever we're here to do unless some of that's going to involve pain, because some of our expansion comes from pain. And again, I get all of this doesn't make it easier, right? I guess what I'm trying to do is increase awareness for you to maybe understand that everything that's happening is happening for a reason. How does all that make you feel, Stace?
Yeah, I just want to know what the reason is.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, the reason, can you let go? Can you truly trustful and trust in the universe, whatever's coming next?
Mhm.
Yes, you got to make a decision. You have to make a decision or whatever. But then once you've made that decision, by the way, you know, whatever that decision may be, does it need to be now? Can it be, you know, again, for each individual, that's different. But once you've done that, can you, it's like how things work out, what they look like, what box they come in. Can you let that go and truly trust that the universe will deliver? If you're willing to show up in all ways, are you willing to let go of how things turn out and to be truly be able to trust the universe? And Stace, honestly, you're one person that I've seen do the trust fall many times, but I recognize the difference this time. This is why the conversation we had is you were running on adrenaline. You were running on change was coming, and I'm sure that's true for so many people. Change was coming. You had to decide quick. Change was coming in. It's like always landing on your feet. But this feels like a deeper decision that is a choice. And it's like, what do you do next? And I'm sure there's lots of people listening thinking, I've got to decide what I want to do next for my career, or, you know, I'm in a relationship where the soul contract's coming to an end, and what do I do next? And so many people are coming to the end of a cycle and getting to a point where it's a rebirth to really kind of decide what the future looks like. So there is no crystal ball, Stace.
I know, and I so wish there was right now. It would make this a lot easier. But I feel the churning that I'm sure so many people feel. I feel the intensity of it. Um, and, you know, I've always kind of lived by the philosophy that if you don't know what to do, don't do anything because the answer hasn't come yet, right? Like I've always kind of lived with that philosophy, like, okay, if I don't have an answer one way or the other, then I'm not meant to have an answer yet, and the answer will come. And so I'm trying really
Yeah.
hard to live by that and to say, okay, if I don't know what to do, I'm not going to do anything because at some point I'm going to be given a sign. I am praying so hard every day. Like, please, God, give me an answer. Please show me the direction that you want me to go in. Please allow me to be open and accepting of whatever the answer is, right? Because I think sometimes we'll get an idea in our head and then we have to stick with the idea and then we stay with that idea. I'm trying to say, I surrender. I surrender to whatever this is. I surrender to what you have planned for me. I surrender.
So I get that sounds really easy, right? And sometimes I say things and you turn around to me and say, that sounds really easy. How does that really feel? Truly letting go and waiting for an answer and being comfortable with not having an answer now.
I'm not comfortable. I'm so uncomfortable. I mean, I am losing sleep over it. I am tense. I am emotional. I am withholding my feelings from other people. Like, it's intense. It's scary because I want to do the quote unquote right thing, not the easy thing. I want to do the best thing for everyone involved. And I'm not quite sure what that is. So it's hard. It's easy to say, I surrender, but it's hard to actually do it and let go and say, I'm going to trust this process.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the weight of it. And I also want to be, I want to lead by example to my clients and to my people in my life. So I don't want to be telling them one thing and doing another, right? I want to be practicing what I preach. And so I just keep getting up every day and trying to turn it over and say, okay, I don't have an answer yet, but I will. I don't know what that looks like. But also
That's,
there's a lot of pressure I'm putting on myself with the timeline,
yeah.
you know? And
And that's why I asked him, how easy is it to let go, right? And
it's not.
you know, you are somebody that's authentic, right? And I love your vulnerability and your ability to share. This phase is hard. Just look at all the clients that we talk to. Everybody's going through such an energetic shift, and everybody's kind of feeling lost, as if, well, I don't know what's coming next. But again, like we talked about, laying the foundation and doing the right things, and as much as possible, letting go and trusting is the message I keep getting, even through the Akashic records, is we're not meant to know what's coming next. And because here's the thing, it's like, what if whatever the universe has planned for us is so much bigger than we could imagine? And our wanting to understand and put things in a box is slowing down that progression. And the more that we can let go, the easier whatever the next phase is will look like. I can feel a shift in me. I can feel things around me changing. I can feel the clients changing. I can feel the business growing. I can feel me being different inside, and I want to know what it means. Last few months have been so intense, and it has been a very personal journey. But during this time, and I'm in the UK, and all of a sudden we have a heat wave. But things like staying grounded, spending time in nature, spending time, just grounding yourself, walking barefoot on the grass, allowing Mother Nature to hold your space is really important right now. And the other thing that right now is, I'm sure for a lot of us, our friend circles are getting smaller. There are people leading our lives and living our lives. And, as we go through the phase that we're going through, which is like a rebirth, the universe does reduce the energy around us. The universe does allow us to finish soul contracts so we can enter this next phase as clean as possible. And that's, again, not easy, because there's people in my life that I thought would be in my life forever that are no longer in my life. And it is hard, but I have to trust. I have to trust that the people in my life that are no longer in my life are not meant to be there. I always remember the phrase which goes, the universe or God removes the people in your life because she knows the conversations that are happening when you're not around. So I trust, and I really do try and let go as much as possible. But again, it's not hard. It's not easy, but it's not meant to be, right? We do hard things is kind of a phrase. But the other things to kind of bear in mind during this time is, again, the self-care, but also I'm not a huge fan of protection. But when we're going through this phase, and especially when we're in public spaces and our energy as it's shifting as we're going through rebirth is more susceptible. So putting a bubble around you, asking your guides to only allow things in that are from a loving nature. They're here to guide you, serve you in some kind of way, and don't allow anything else in. Doing things like that, protecting your energy is super, super important. So, Stacey, what are you doing? I mean, I get this is an intense time. It is a rebirth. But what do you do to kind of stay grounded during this time?
So I'm in the UK right now, and I think it's important to express like I'm not at home. So I'm not in my usual environment. I brought my 11-year-old daughter here with me, and we are staying with my boyfriend and his two kids. And so it's a very busy time. The kids are on summer holiday. So, you know, there's kids running around here at all hours of the day and night. They are staying up later, right? So, like, the time that I have to be on my own and be introspective is very, very limited. But I will tell you, as I've been in this kind of chaotic environment, um, I've spent a lot of time in nature since I've been here, and that has helped a lot. The weather has been pretty good, knock on wood. It's been pretty good while I've been here. And I'm staying on a big 110-acre campground and have been doing a lot of walking and a lot of like sightseeing, and being outside helps a lot. So I would say that's the first thing that I'm doing on a regular basis that I don't feel that I do enough when I'm at home. Like, the environment here is just a lot different. What do I intend to do when I get home? Um, I intend to get back to working out. I feel like the release of adrenaline and the focus on my physical body really helps me a lot. And it's something that I've been really into in the past and have kind of let go and haven't made it a priority, and it needs to be. I feel like journaling is a powerful practice for me and something that really helps me to process my thoughts and be introspective and reflective. So that's a big one. And then my quiet time is another big one. Taking time for myself when I don't have my daughter to kind of be with my own thoughts and feelings just feels really important right now. It feels scary and overwhelming, but it also feels important.
Yeah, all good advice. And those time in nature, physical activity, journaling, meditation, just being present, I feel kind of gives me a strong base to be able to respond rather than react. I guess the other thing to consider is, how do we feel about change? Because change is scary for humans naturally. Everyone will say, "Oh my God, I love change. I embrace change." But I guess, again, to our listeners, how do you really feel about change? Does it scare you? Does it excite you? How do you feel about change when you have no control? Being honest with yourself during this time, I feel, is also really important. How do you really feel about change, Stace?
Scary as hell. It's so scary. I think that we, like you said, we as human beings like to say, "Oh, I embrace change," and change is
Hmm.
great. But then I think when it comes down to it, we're creatures of habit by nature, right? And the idea of changing our world or our orbit, when it really comes down to it, is terrifying because we thrive on what's familiar. And a lot of us are not awakened enough on a daily basis to even notice that we're on automatic pilot a lot of the time. And so, how do you go from being on automatic pilot to embracing change? Like, those are two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, right? And so many of us are living in that space where we go and do what we do. We wake up, rinse, repeat. We do the same thing every day. And when it really comes down to it, I think that a lot of people are afraid of change. I know I am. I mean, I want to tell you that I'm great with change because I've been on this roller coaster with you and you've seen me go through so many changes. But I mean, how much anxiety have I had? How much fear have I had? How much worry have I had? How much depression have I had? Like, there have been all these emotions that have gone through all of this process as I've adapted and adapted and adapted. And I've made it through each one of the changes. But I keep going back to the same thing. Like, I'm not getting any younger. And I want to live a life of peace and serenity in this season. Doesn't mean that I won't embrace change, but I would like to find a space where things are just a little bit calmer than what they have been. The roller coaster, it feels like I'm getting
Yeah.
a little too old for it.
Yeah, I mean, age is an interesting. I mean, that's probably an episode on its own, right? But it is interesting our expectations. I was having a conversation with a friend this morning, and it's just our expectations of where we thought we were going to be, our expectations of how we thought our life was going to be, right? I mean, when I started, in my career, I was fully expecting to be in a very senior role in the corporate space, be married with kids, lead I guess most people would call it a normal life. But my soul didn't pick a normal life, right? That isn't and it is, kind of letting go of those expectations. You know, the age thing, Stacey talked about being 47. It's just like, well, so what? Are we going into a new paradigm where, being a certain age, who cares, right? Leaving our expectations at the door, because this is an interesting period, right? And I really feel where people are struggling, actually where I'm struggling, is letting go of my old self, letting go of the version of the person I thought I was going to be, letting go of him, and just, accepting that I am who I am today because of everything I've been to. So be proud of me, of course, but let that version of me go, because this new version isn't going to be born until we let go of that old version and fall in love with the version of who you are today. And that's hard when we had expectations of how life was going to be, because you're letting go of what you thought was your dream. And that's hard. It's just, especially when you don't know what's coming. So the universe is asking us to let go of our old selves, our old dreams, to embrace what's coming without showing us what's coming. And that's like, it's hard. It is hard. And, again, we're here, Stacey, we're here, to give people advice. And it isn't easy. This phase isn't meant to be easy, but the more that we can let go and trust, the more that we can let go of our old version of ourselves. And people probably think I'm weird, but I do love going to a graveyard. I love going to a graveyard and imagining that old version of me, burying him, letting him go, celebrating him, but embracing this new version of me. And whatever works for you or listeners, I would encourage you to do something symbolic to let the old version of you go, to let the new version of you come through. Because, Stacey, you talked about change, and as humans, change is hard because our ego doesn't want us to change. Our ego wants us to stay the same. Because if we change, then what if we fall? Or what if we get hurt? What if we fail? Whatever failure looks like. But again, your ego's only trying to protect you. It's not a bad thing. The ego gets a bad rap. It stands for Earth Guide only. It's trying to protect the Earth Guide, the version of you that you are today. But sometimes you need to talk to your ego and say, you know what? I got this. I don't need protecting. And, having a conversation with your ego, having a conversation with your soul, things like that does help. And of course, talk to your guides, call in your higher self. And I guess sometimes it feels really difficult. And, I've done this process before and I wasn't planning to, but let me do a quick process. And Stacey, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and all listeners, if you're in a position to, please do close your eyes. Just take a deep breath in and a breath out. Take another deep breath in and a breath out. And just center yourself. Connect with your soul, your heart. Open your heart up and feel the love like you've never felt before. Accept this version of you. Be proud of you. And then from this space, I call in your higher self. I ask your higher self to step in closer. I ask you to feel any energies around you. Be open to feeling your higher self near you. Where are you feeling a shift in your energy? Maybe it's behind you. Maybe it's on your left-hand side. Maybe your right-hand side. Maybe it's in front of you. But if you were just to, and even if you make it up, if you would pick a space where you feel your energy is different, concentrate all your energy in that space. What do you feel? Allow yourself to feel. I ask your higher self to magnify their energy, to magnify the love they're sending you. I ask you to be open to receive, to feel that energy. And just remember what this feels like. You can do this on your own. You can call in your higher self and just feel what you feel. Get used to this energy. I ask your higher self to transmit anything your higher self wants at this time. Be open to what that feels like. Thank you for allowing me to do this. Whenever you're ready, just open your eyes and come back into your body. That was a bit of a sidetrack there, Stace. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was really good. I think it was good to do, and I think it'll be good for people, our listeners, to hear.
And that's the thing. It's like connecting with our guides, connecting with our higher self. I get a lot of messages recently where people are saying they don't feel as connected. And again, it is because of what we're going through, right? I mean, I can feel my crown going crazy. But it is because of what we're going through, right? And knowing that you're getting more support than you ever have done before, even if you don't feel it, is another trustful. And I guess the other thing to think about is look for a community, look for like-minded people, because typically the people that you normally talk to are probably not going to understand what you're going through. Unless they're, of a spiritual nature, people aren't going to understand because it's almost like alien to them, right? They may listen to you, they may hold your space, but there are communities out there. I mean, we occasionally still go on Clubhouse. That could be a space. We have our monthly healing session, which the next one's on August the 15th. But reach out to us. But reach out to other people. Maybe look for a mentor, look for a guide. Getting support on the human side, and it may come in the most surprising forms, is also an important thing to do, because I really do believe the support is out there, but we have to be open to whatever that looks like. And how does that feel to you, Stace? What's your community been like? When I talked about my friend circle and kind of everything that's happened in the last couple of years has been strange, right? How have been
Yeah, I
things?
mean, I think
How about?
we're in a similar position, right? Like our circle is very small, and we have kind of learned to accept that. And I would rather have a small circle that is people that know me and that I feel connected to than to have a big circle of people that don't I don't feel connected to, or I don't feel that deeper connection with. So I'm okay with it. I am. I'm okay with my circle being smaller.
No. And we've had this conversation many times, and has been weird. Honestly, I think my friend circle's always been small, relatively. But yeah, it's just interesting. But again, let me ask our listeners is feel and connect with the people around you and just ask, who around you is holding your space, is supporting you, is really allowing you to be. Who is around your space where you need to be different to be around them, where you're not being authentic? And then consider who's serving you and who isn't. Ask, who around me is my soul contract complete? Because maybe you're hanging on to people because you're familiar, but they're not supporting you. And I get that's difficult, right? It's easy to do because, again, we talked about how difficult change is. And sometimes we think, well, hold on, if we let these people go, who else is there going to be? But nature abhors a vacuum, right? We have to create space for new things to come through. And again, I really apologize if I make this sound easy because it isn't. I don't mean to make it sound easy. But it is important you recognize that you are being supported by the universe. And I try and close my eyes quite often and just feel the energy around me because I know I'm supported on the other side. I may not always feel supported on the human side, but I know I'm supported on the other side. And I encourage everybody to just allow yourself to feel the energy around you. Allow yourself to feel your guides. What does the future look like? I just said we've just entered into Mercury retrograde. The next few months feel like they're going to continue. I really feel 2024. I'm always waiting for the energy to light up, but I feel like we're going to look back at 2024 and realize that we changed a lot. 2024 was a really expansive where our life from the beginning to the end has been totally changed. And I ask everyone that's listening just to let go of you trying to control and hold on to the old version of yourself, the expectations of what your life looked like. Be open to your gifts being activated. Be open to your connections changing. Be open to your guides speaking to you more. Reach out to us. Maybe you're ready for an Akasha reading. Maybe you're ready for a mentorship. We're here. We love what we do. But as mentors and coaches, we're meant to go through it too. We're humans. We're souls having a human experience. But actually, we're willing to take everything we've learned and, channel whatever we can, connect with the records, connect with our guides, connect with your guides. We're all in with you. If you work with us, we're all in. And we've seen some miraculous changes. And I really believe anyone that works with us if you have a soul contract with, they were meant to. Yeah, but we do bring up stuff in people, right? We should come with a health warning because, we help you to understand your program. We help you to release your programming. We guide you on what that version of you looks like. But it is intense, just is. So if you're ready and you're willing to play full out, then reach out. How do you feel about this episode, Stace?
I feel that it is going to stir a lot of people. And I have a feeling we'll be getting some messages for sure. I think that this is so relatable. And I think people are really going to resonate with what we're saying.
Yeah, I know, both of us are here to guide people, right? And if this episode does stir up things in you, then do reach out. Send us a DM. Both of our social medias will be in the show notes. Reach out. We're here. We're sending everybody energetic hugs. Really, really do. Sending you so much love and light. So Stacey, as we come into the end of this episode, what I'm going to ask you. Any final thoughts and maybe a couple of general prompts for our listeners?
So I think that a great journal prompt would be to focus around the thought of surrender. And so I think the first thing is, um, are you open to change? And then, are you willing to surrender? And then I'm going to steal one from you, Nims. And that is, are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I use that phrase a lot. I take it from one of my favorite poems by Araya. I love that. It really does. For me, that's powerful. Are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? That to me is such a powerful statement, because I know I've molded myself around other people just to be the person I thought they wanted. But I now realize I need to be authentic. I need to be myself. People accept me for who I am. They do, they don't. That's not up to me. That's up to them. But how I do one thing is how I do everything. I try and be authentic in all areas, and I would encourage everyone to try and do the same. It's not easy, by the way. You go back, it's a journey, right? And as much as possible, I guess my last advice as we close is try and introduce some fun into your life. It's this fear is serious, it's intense. We've spent just the whole episode talking about it, but also having some fun, whatever that looks like. If you've got good weather outside, spend some time in nature. Spend some time with some people that are just going to make you laugh. Just put something on that gives you a belly laugh. Laughter's so healing. And the other thing is crying. If you want to cry, cry. Why? And why do we hold so much emotion back? And I'm talking to the masculine side of whether you're male or female, right? Because sometimes we feel like we've got to be tough, but crying is so releasing. So if you're feeling something, if this episode brings some up in you, and if you want to cry, cry. Please do cry again. It's so spiritual. Stacey, I love the fact you can be vulnerable on these episodes. I get so many messages saying that they love your vulnerability. So that for me is one of your superpowers.
Thanks. I mean, sometimes it feels like a curse rather than a blessing, but I don't know any other way to be. And I feel like if I can help somebody through my openness, then that's the goal. The ultimate goal is to help as many people as I can. And I know I can't be the only one.
Thank you for being so open and vulnerable, Stacey, as always. Thank you for being you. Thank you to all our listeners. Sending so much love and light out to our listeners. And Stacey, I'm going to hand it over to you to close us out.
Thanks, everybody, for another amazing episode. Please reach out to us. We love hearing from you. The DMs that we get, the emails we get, they mean so much. To know that we've had an impact on one person makes all the difference. And we've been doing this podcast now for quite some time, and we're going to continue pouring into you as much as we can. Thanks for listening.
And just to add to that, if you know somebody who would appreciate this podcast, this episode, please do share. We know this podcast is shared by lots of people. And the other thing is like and review. That again makes a difference. So thank you again, Stacey. I love you loads, and sending love and light to everyone. See you soon. Bye for now.